Hi, this is episode 2, and we're going to continue on from yesterday. So, what are we going to talk about today? I think I'd like to start with an analysis of where I think Australia stands vis-a-vis the United States at the moment. You know, I have a philosophy that what happens in the USA affects the rest of the world, and it affects us in Australia also. And therefore, I keep a very close. I pay close attention to what happens in the United States for that very good reason. Now, I suppose I should declare my own interests. I would say that I was a conservative libertarian in an international sense. So I believe in traditional values, but I'm really not interested in social agenda items. For example, what goes on between consenting adults behind closed doors is none of my business. I think abortion is a woman's business. Things like marriage, I think, are very much an individual thing, although I do believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But if there was a religion that wanted to marry homosexuals, I would say that's their business. But I personally believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. So I would describe myself as an insecure agnostic. What does that mean? It means that I'm not absolutely certain that there is a God as we know it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. So that does put me in the sort of realm of a spiritual person, and I'm particularly I'm convinced that that is the case in the light of the latest evidence that we have through quantum mechanics. For those people who are interested in that sort of a thing, is that if you have quantum physics on the one side and quantum mechanics on the other, the quantum classics would be the outer universe from, we say, the size of an atom upwards, or in that ballpark, and quantum mechanics would be in that ballpark, an atom and below in size. And of course, at the very small size of an atom, which is in the billionths of an inch, of a centimeter, billionths of a centimeter, then reality is a very different kettle of fish. Because at that level, things seem, according to the double slit experiment, to be they operate in a superposition. In other words, everything is everywhere. An atom can be entangled with the fundamental particle of its own at any position in the universe. And that would seem to conflict with Einstein's theory of relativity, where you cannot exceed the speed of light. So if that is a fact, if that at a fundamental level things can exist at what they call a superposition, and I don't understand the maths, but that's what they say, then it opens the door for me to believe that there are things which I cannot comprehend. And if I can't comprehend it, I can't close the door on it. And that's why I call myself an insecure agnostic. So let's get to temporal matters and matters at the moment. What do I think of what's happening in the United States? Well, I think that Donald Trump is a breath of fresh air. I think that after 8 years of an experiment that never showed dividends under the first black American president, and even that is a bit of a stretch, because Barack Obama may have been half white, um, but his mother was a white from Kansas, and he received his formative years of education in Indonesia, where he was known as Barry Sotoro. So Barry Sotoro, I think from when you read his books, and I've read both his books, if he wrote them, that is, if it wasn't written by Bill Ayers, which some people think he was the person behind it, that is Dreams of My Father and Audacity of Hope. And it would appear that his informative years were in Indonesia, and he would have been subject to the influence of his stepfather, who was in the Indonesian army. His mother worked in the US Embassy in Indonesia, and he describes in his book, Dreams of My Father, the day actually when he became aware that he was that his skin color was an issue. The fact that his mother had the good sense to return him to be raised in Hawaii by his maternal grandparents was a very good thing for him. But that isn't even the issue. The issue is that he was encouraged into politics. He didn't require that much encouragement, but he was encouraged. He was charismatic and a good-looking man. He had a very fine presence, and before he knew it, he found himself in politics, and then even before he knew it, he was adopted by the Democratic Party, and to Hillary Clinton's great surprise, and I should imagine shock, he found himself contesting a US election, and he won it. So for 8 years he was in the White House. For the first part of that 8 years there was a Democrat control of both the lower house and the upper house. That's the House of Representatives and the Senate, and he did nothing about it. And the big excuse that is run is that he inherited a mess, which he did in terms of financial mess. But what did he do about it? He didn't do much about it at all. One has to ask, is the average African American better off because of Barack Obama? And I would have to say no. All the indicators, the financial indicators, the social indicators, would indicate that they were not better off. What he did do is give them a certain sense of pride, and that's not difficult to understand, that the fact that there was an African American get to the presidency is probably going to be the greatest legacy that he has left, because now nobody can say that the door to the presidency will be denied to people of color. That's not true. I think that white people are quite prepared to vote for a black man, because I don't even think skin color is an issue for whites. It might be an issue for blacks, but I don't think it's an issue for whites. And that is a perspective that comes from somebody like myself, who was brought up in Africa. My experience has been that blacks in Africa are far more racist than whites. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I'm not trying to put them down, but if you went to live in Africa and you know your white daughter wanted to marry a black man there, you'd have problems in the black community there, because that's breaking the order of things, and they don't like that. But let me move on from that. So I think the election of Donald Trump is a breath of fresh air and a great shock to America. Not to the whole of America, actually. It was a sense of great joy that the average American took in the election of Trump, because it meant that there was going to be a return to what people talk who people think of as traditional American values. And I agree with that. I think that the left have captured the Democratic Party, have infiltrated academia, and shamefully have infiltrated the lower education system, the public schools, and teachers have been indoctrinating youngsters across the board, and not to the benefit of the children that are teaching. I think that Hollywood entertainment has been very left-wing, negative, not very informed. I think it's a great shame that the US judiciary have been so infiltrated by left-wing thinking. And so hardly any of the old institutions of power were not affected by the 8 years of Obama, and not in some way jaundiced by that period. So it is a difficulty for Donald Trump to return the country to making America great again by introducing traditional American values, where one can say that those that fall through the cracks through no fault of their own are the people that should be sitting in the cart, and the cart is being pulled by the rest of us who pay taxes and do the right thing and must take ourselves, be responsible for ourselves, responsibility and accountability for what we do, and we pull the cart. It's when people who are pulling the cart try to get into the cart and get a free ride that the problem arises, and where politicians go and buy elections by promising things and being irresponsible with the fiscal purse, get to power and put in place policies that will guarantee their re-election, but will ensure ultimately that the country will go broke or will face the prospect of bankruptcy, and then you have to have austerity. So Donald Trump has promised to stop that trend, to reverse that negative trend, and to return sense and responsibility to our Western way of life. And I applaud that. It's a sense of disappointment to me that so few Western governments have seen the light and understand what he's trying to do. So that's my episode for today.